going to move to perhaps the more interesting side of my current Football Manager save, and that's with the national team. And currently, I'm in charge of Ivory Coast. Now, it's the year 2026. I joined Ivory Coast in 2022. I always like to become a manager of a national team relatively early on in my save. It increases manager profile, things like that, and it's a real challenge. I love being involved in the competitions, and I joined Ivory Coast, and expectations are pretty high. The African nations qualifiers are pretty simple, but once you actually get to the African Cup of Nations, they expect you to win it. And I've had 2 third place finishes in 2023 and 2025. So if we look at the African Cup of Nations now, and the most recent one, I got knocked out by Cameroon on penalties, 1-1 after a fantastic match. Probably the best match I've been involved in this Football Manager save in the 6 years I've been doing it. It was unbelievable end-to-end football. If you look at the shots on target, everything, possession, really even game. I was down to 10 men as well. It went to extra time. We got knocked down penalties, and I was gutting, but it was a hell of a game to be involved in. So I had 2 third place finishes, which is frustrating in the African nations, but that's the way it goes. And my record, I say at Ivory Coast, is pretty good actually. I'm not exactly sure. Here we go. Ivory Coast, 1,179 days in charge. Played 37 games, won 30, 4 draws, just 3 defeats, and won 81% of the games. But unfortunately, the 2 crucial losses were in the African Nations semi-finals. So I've yet to achieve my objective. I want to win an African Nations Cup before I leave Ivory Coast, but right now we're in the middle of a World Cup campaign. The year is 2026. The World Cup is being hosted, and we have qualified for it. So, and the hosts are USA, Canada, and Mexico. Is that the same in real life? I don't think so. I don't think the World Cup's been decided yet for 2026. But anyway, it's the first time it's going to move to a 3-group format, which I don't like. I'll be honest with you, I think it's awful. But the top 2 from each group will qualify for the knockout rounds, and we have drawn against Denmark and who was it? Denmark and Colombia in World Cup Group N. So, God, there's so many groups, it's hard to find out exactly where we are. But anyway, we are 15th in the world, I do believe. Yes, we are 15th. So, we've had a good run in terms of world rankings. Now, we took over in 2022. There's a cock up here with the dates, but I think we're roughly about 37th in the world, maybe 30th. So this has been the run, since I took over. We've got into a nice position. We've done well, obviously, and got ourselves 15th in the world. And these are the world rankings. Now, France are the leading nation, England, Brazil, Argentina, and down we go. We're not the highest ranked African side. Senegal and Cameroon, they've won the last 2 African Nations Cups. That's why they're there. But we're not bad, and obviously we are ranked higher than our opponents in Group M, but they're not going to be easy matches. Anyway, let's take you to the squad and the current tactics that I'm using now. My preferred formation in this Football Manager game is a 4-3-3, and this is it tweaks in terms of player roles, but generally I like to have an inside forward on one side, out wide, and a winger on the other. In Ivory Coast terms, we've got Zaha and Cornet, and I always like to have an advanced forward. 3 midfielders with various different roles, and a flat back 4. Now, this squad of Ivory Coast is I would say, getting in its prime now. We've got a lot of players around that 30 mark, 26 to 30. One big problem in the game is I've not got many youngsters at all, unfortunately, which is a real shame. If we look at the national pool of players, and this is the highest, you have to go there, 23 years old before you get a player valued at 400,000 or more. There's no youth coming through, so long term this Ivory Coast project is a no-hoper, and there's nothing I can do about that. It seems that my game is not generating high quality Ivory Coast players. So this job at Ivory Coast is going to be probably a couple more years. My plan actually is World Cup 2026, try and really do well in that, and then the African Nations Cup in 2027, win that. And if I don't win that, I'll probably resign from the job. I don't see myself going to the World Cup 2030 with this squad, for the reasons that I mentioned there. Look at this squad, you know, nearly all of it would be 33 years old at least, and some would probably be retired and out of the game. So yeah, let's have a look at this. One piece of bad news: Serge Aurier, who, yes, in real life he can be a bit of a cock-up player sometimes, can't he? But he's out of the World Cup. This was an injury that happened just 2 or 3 weeks ago in my game. He's out. A damaged spine, which was up to 11 months at that time. Now, it's a real shame for him. It would have been his last World Cup, I think. Maybe he's got one more major tournament in him next year for me. Now, his stats aren't anything special, but he's still my best right back. So a real shame he's at Spartak Moscow now. Serge Aurier is ruled out of the World Cup. So at the moment, he's the only long-term injury. Let's hope it stays that way. But let's start with the big problem I've got with Ivory Coast. It's in goal. The 3 goalkeepers. And in fact, let's actually go to the national pool of players, and goalkeepers are a massive issue. As we say here, we've only got 4 in this national pool. Nicolas Thier is current starter, and he's probably the best option, to be honest, but he plays for Ponferrada in the Spanish second division, which isn't a great standard, is it? 6.54 rating. He did better last year, but he's not got a great history there. Axel Cassou, even worse stats, really. He's at Avranches in France Ligue 2. He's not even a starter for them. And the other option is Sayuba Mande, who I'm sure many of you may have heard of. He's got a little bit more of a pedigree to him. 58 caps, just 9 for handling though. He's a good sweeper keeper, which is what I like. But he's 9 for handling. I think the World Cup start is going to be between Mande and Thier, but neither are good. So goalkeeper's massive problem. Right back, I've said, huge problem now at right back for me. And it says here Kevin Godin's my second best option. Right, the problem is, now this is another problem I have with Ivory Coast, in that a lot of the potential options, the best valued players, or Ivorians, are actually not going to represent me because they prefer to represent other nations. I'll give you an example here. Zagadou prefers France. He's eligible for Ivory Coast, but for some reason he doesn't want to represent us. He's 26 now. He still hasn't had a French cap. He could come into my squad, but you try and persuade them, and they always say the same thing, that they prefer France's stature in the game, and the number 1 ranked nation. So, Yoris Nagnon's another example here. Jonathan Bamba, Sorelio Maite. I'd love to get him on board, but it's just not going to happen, unfortunately. So, yeah, right back is going to be an issue for me, in this squad. At the moment, we're probably going to go with Eric Bailey could be one. He's capable of playing right back, got these reasonable enough pace, can't cross it. It's going to be a real problem for me in this sort of area of the field at right back. But let's just get on to some more positive matters. Another option would be Angelo Fulgini, who's not actually in the squad. I'll come to him in a minute. But key player Nicolas Pepe, without a shadow of a doubt. If this bloke got injured, then I'm going to be in massive trouble, because now his best position is this inside forward on the right hand side, but I just feel like he's my best actual striker. Sometimes I might move him in this position, but he's worth 38 million. He scored an awful lot of goals for me at international level. He can be a frustrating player, but at the advanced forward role, Wilf Zaha is going to be my winger on the left, and this is not set in stone because he's getting on a bit now. He's 33-year-old, and he doesn't always perform that well for me at international level. He can be a bit inconsistent, but he's got a lot of experience. He's in China now, and his ratings are generally pretty good. 75 caps. Maxwell Cornier is my current inverted winger on the right. 23 million rated player at Fulham. He's had a good season, and he sometimes plays quite well for me. It's an interesting trio. I'd love it if we had sort of another good striker, and Bayo's an option. Bayo is an option. He's valued at 39 million, Southampton player, but his goals can be a bit inconsistent, and I prefer an advanced forward with pace. He's better as a complete forward, so sometimes he plays up front. Kouame here, Michael Kouame is another option, advanced forward, and it does suit his role a bit better. Valued at 12.5 million with Atlanta in Serie A. Again, goal scoring can be a bit sketchy though, so this is why I go with Nicolas Pepe up front. You know, it just feels like the best option. Out on the wide, Boga, although his stats are not always that great, he does well for me on that left wing. He's my backup sort of left winger and right winger. I've never played him up front very often, but he's an option for me. Plays at the moment for Real Betis in Spain. No, he does alright. That's not a bad 6.88 rating, I suppose. Well, it's the second division now. So, but he actually plays better at international level than club level, it feels like. So the strikers are interesting. I've got a really strong midfield. Franck Kessié is probably the second player I couldn't do without. He's 56 minutes. He's probably my best player in the squad. He's at Milan. He has consistently great ratings. He's a massive player for me. He's a captain. He plays in a box-to-box midfield role. He can often score quite a few goals from range. Top player. If I lost him to injury before this World Cup, forget about it. Forget about going deep. And the rest of the midfield, I've got some good midfield options in terms of solidity. Jean-Philippe Gabamina sort of plays his ball-winning midfielder role sometimes. He's at Southampton in the Premier League, so you know his ratings are not special, but he's holding his own as a starter in that level, which is good. And Hamari Traore is really versatile, can do a lot of different things. 60 million rated player at Barcelona, top player. This midfield is strong, and you know it's a midfield actually. Let's go back to his stats there. He's at Barcelona at 7.17, 7.08 ratings in the top division, top player. This midfield can compete with most in the World Cup, I would say. Kessié and Traore certainly top notch midfield trio there, and I've got backup players in the midfield like Doumbia. Sorry, no, he's the left back, not Doumbia. Idrissa Doumbia, sorry. 20 million rated, not bad backup to have in those roles. So there's options at the back. Cedric Chypre, who's at Wigan in real life, I think. He's been a rock for me actually. Good player, puts in some good performances. Solid enough at that. He's not elite, but he's good. And Yves de Billa is another pretty solid player. Nearly 20 million rated at Wolfsburg there. You know, getting solid ratings there in the top tier of Germany. Right back's going to be a big problem. Left back is another issue. I've got kids like Kona, who plays at PAOK. I mean, Conan's not bad, as we can see with his stats there, but he's not elite, is he? Does a reasonable job without being anything special, but left back isn't a particularly strong area. And Solomon Doumbia is my backup left back again. Similar stats to Conan really. You could start either. but he's not even a starter in Ligue 2 in France, so it's a worry, isn't it? But one of those still be the starter left back. Backup defenders, we've got Eric Bailly, showed him earlier, not bad. Experienced enough, isn't he? Odin Kasunu got great physicals, abilities, technique's a bit okay, I suppose. He's not a bad backup centre back to have. He can play at the right back as well, but right back is going to be a big problem for me. And I'm actually looking what's happened to Angelo Fulgini, because he is a really versatile player. I don't know why he's not actually in my squad. See if we can call him up. Yeah, we call him up now. He might well be my right back to start with, because I like his versatility. He's got decent enough stats, all round stats as a right back. Can play in his midfield role as well. Can play all over the park, to be honest with you. So I think he was injured in the last squad I did. So yeah, tactics, attacking. I like to be attacking. We're looking at in possession, high tempo, slightly more direct, because I've got pacey players in attack who can make a good run there. Apart from that, no real other extras. I like to have a quick game, counter press and counter. No specific instructions here. And high line up the top, and standard defensive line, slightly more urgent. Nothing too particularly overcomplicated. And it's a formation that's generally worked pretty well for me in the game so far. The problem is this World Cup will be the hardest test I've had. Even in the African Nations qualifiers, in the World Cup qualifiers, I'll never face anyone decent. That's the problem. There's so many. If we have a look at the schedule now, last year, I mean, there's a lot of wins on the board, as you can see. It's just African Nations proves those 3-2, 5-2, 1-0. The actual qualifiers are ridiculous. If we look at some of these, 6-0, 6-0, 7-0, 5-0, but they're a piece of piss. We just don't test ourselves enough. Obviously it's positive we're winning those matches so well, but it feels like when we've been in these African Nations matches, they tend to be quite close affairs. This was the semi-final, close matches. This was one of the great wins I had, actually, followed by that gutting defeat to Cameroon. But we're generally on the level with Cameroon and Senegal, who are 14th and 15th in the world. So if we look in the World Cup, what is a realistic ambition for the World Cup? And as I say, we go Group N, and then how many groups have we got then? So we've got Group P, 1, 2, 3. I can't work out how many. Would it be 32? 16 groups. 16 groups, and so we're going to have the last 32 round after that, aren't we? Second round, yeah. So if we qualify from the group, we've got to win 1, 2, 3, 4 knockout matches, then the final, which is not easy. I can tell you what, international management is a massive challenge for those who've done it in tournaments themselves. A huge challenge, and it's going to be difficult. I would hope to qualify from the group, and you would hope to perhaps progress to the third round. I think that's a realistic objective. I don't know what the actual board objective is going to be. They may have got the vision of this. Let's have a look. Here we are. Minimum expectation the team reach the third round of the World Cup. Fair enough, I agree with that. I just said that. So I would say that is a realistic thing. I'd love to go further than that. That'd be fantastic. If we could make the quarterfinals of the World Cup, would be brilliant. The third round, I'd take that. It's just great to be involved in the World Cup. Happens at once every 4 years in the game. My international objective in this Football Manager save is in 4 years' time to be going into a World Cup with a nation where I'm thinking I can win this World Cup. So, we're hoping to get a job after 2021 African nations. Maybe I could get, maybe I'm being a bit optimistic here, but maybe Brazil or Argentina after the Copa America. Maybe I could get one of those jobs. If not, I'm probably waiting for Euro 2028, and I'll be trying to pick up a top European nation there to take into the World Cup 2030. But this World Cup is just about enjoying it, trying to get on a run with Ivory Coast. I can't win it, surely. I don't think I can win the World Cup with them. I think put me against any of these sort of top 5, 6, top 10 nations in the world, and I think I'll be unstuck. But this is the squad we've got. It's an enjoyable save I've got with them at the moment. We're good to watch. We play some nice football, and the next match on the schedule actually is this. It's actually some African nations qualifiers against Mali and Burundi. Mali are 45th in the world. Burundi must be about 100 and something, 149th. So those are the two matches we've got, and then we've obviously got 3 matches in the World Cup save. Friendlies followed by the group matches. Hopefully there'll be more matches obviously after that. But the squad needs to be decided for this particular thing, and we've got space for one more player. So I like to look at value, and Ibrahim Zangara is not in the actual squad yet, so we'll put him in. That makes it 23-man squad. There's not a lot of other options we can have in. Yan Karamo is worth 12 million. He could be potential winger. I think we're probably going to have to decide, do I want to have a look at him or not? If we look at the squad, what wingers options have we got out wide? Boga, Cornet, Kwame can also play out wide. I don't really need another winger in there, unless, is he in good form or not? Yan Karamo at Parma. It's in Serie A. He's not really in great form. 6.72. You could say it's a positive. He's actually holding his own. Where are Parma? Like 16th. So he's not exactly playing at a high enough level. He's not doing enough to warrant getting in this squad yet. It's a bit further down the line. Seko Fofana is someone that has sometimes been in my squad as a midfielder, but he's probably not. It's not the same level as some of the other ones. And unfortunately, like I said before, Sebastian Allay's always refuses to call up. Not that I'd want him now anyway, particularly. He's trying to get in to the French squad, but he rejects me. Yeah, he always rejects me. But unfortunately, there's not a lot of talent up and coming, threatening. Youngsters are on the wane. It's a nightmare. Aboué is another one here. Kouassi Aboué. Sometimes have him in the squad as a midfielder. But he's in MLS with Montreal Impact, which is not a great level, is it? So, yeah, this is the squad that we're going to go with heading into these African Nations qualifiers. There's not a lot after this first 11. We've got a little bit of depth, but if we get serious injuries before the World Cup, which is 3 months away, less than 3 months away, then we're in trouble. So I'm just praying that we can get through the next few months without anything that impacts the World Cup plans. We'll come back for these African Nations qualifiers, and we should win them both fairly easily, certainly the Burundi match, but give you a chance to see how we actually play our style at Ivory Coast, and then we'll go into a World Cup save with them, and hopefully go on a really good run. So and then following that, whatever happens, looking to take Ivory Coast into that African Nations 2027, finally win it, third time lucky, and then after that I'm going to resign. Whatever happens there, I think I'll resign, because I want to be going into World Cup 2030 with a realistic chance of winning it. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the introduction to Ivory Coast, and we'll see you back for some matches next time.